This is 88.5 WXPN HD1 Philadelphia, 88.7 WXPH HD1 Middletown, 91.9 WXPJ HD1 Hackettstown, 90.5 WKHS Wharton, and streaming at xpn.org. Member-supported radio from the University of Pennsylvania.
The Old Barracks Museum in Trenton supports XPN and will have their grand reopening on July 4th to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. This reopening will unveil the results of their year-long restoration. Plus, visitors will experience live 18th century music, living history, and a preview of 3 new exhibits that highlight the site's role in the formation of the United States. For more information, it's barracks.org. The Weitzman National Museum of American Jewish History supports XPN. Currently on view, The First Salute, exploring a little-known chapter of Revolutionary War history, shaped by global alliances from the American colonies to the Caribbean that helped change the course of the American Revolution. Open Wednesday through Sunday on Independence Mall at 5th and Market. More information at theweitzman.org/First Salute.
It's Kids Corner. I'm Kathy O'Connell, and after 38 years, 5 months, and 19 days, here we are, the last Kids Corner on WXPN. And who better to spend this final hour with than someone who has been here 38 years, 5 months, and 18 days.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, you showed up the second day. Thank goodness. It's Kids Corner producer and my best friend, Robert Drake. Everybody's best friend, really.
It seems that way.
You are well known.
It is good to be here. It's good to celebrate not only a job well done, but also a career that has been very fun to watch from side. A lot of people are familiar with the fact that you and I have been partners in crime when it comes to Kids Corner. But what people might not realize is in the very first year, when we would get done the show, at the end of the show, we would go across the street to Allegro Pizza and we would sit in a booth and have a slice of pizza, maybe a beer, and just talk about the show and talk about what our wishes are and what we would hope to have the show turn into someday. So we sat around a table at the end of each night and kind of brainstormed about what could we do with this hour of radio. And now, 38 years later, we no longer have beer or pizza anymore because our heartburn can't take it. But we can still sit around.
We have omeprazole.
That's true. But we can sit around a table and reminisce on a job well done, which I think it has been. I think a lot of people who've listened to the show have shared their memories over the past few months since your announcement of retirement. But before we get to the memories and before we get to all that, I thought it'd be kind of fun for some to learn a little bit about the backstory because as many people have heard you talk about when you talk about how Kids Corner began, the stock answer you've always said is variation of, well, I said, I'll give Philly a year because that's what you said. But a lot of people might not realize what were you doing prior to XPN reaching out to you when you were recently unemployed. So for those who don't know, Kids America was a national show. It aired from the mid-1980s up till 1987. WXPN had just become the Philadelphia affiliate for this national show in the fall of 87, carving out 90 minutes each weeknight to air this national program. Kathy was the co-host of that program. And then the program one day found no funding and you were facing uncertainty. So let's talk a little bit about that before we talk about how XPN reached in and got you. Do you remember when you found out that the show was no longer going to be renewed for funding?
Yes. I don't remember the date, but I know it was fall 1987, and we were called into the office of the general manager of WNYC, the producing station, Mary Perot Nichols, and she read a piece of paper that said the Corporation for Public Broadcasting had not renewed the funding for the national show, which was Kids America, which had a very healthy budget and staff and all kinds of wonderful things. It ran like as close to what you could get to a well run clock at WNYC. So it ran like a really fine tuned grandfather clock at WNYC. And for a while, I was both the board operator and the co host, along with Larry Orfully. And Robert, you have known me technically enough for many, many years that the thought of my being the engineer for the technical director for the radio program makes you laugh somehow.
It does to this day. Every time I know that you are comboing both the board and hosting, I think to myself, really? This Kathy O'Connell? She was doing both those things? Okay, I'll go with that.
What happens when I push this button? Anyways, the announcement went out. We announced it over the air. And then,
did you have any inkling that CPP was not going to renew the funding?
No.
Was it a complete surprise to everybody on staff?
It was, all I remember is I really was surprised. I did, all the crying I have not been doing about leaving my job that I truly love here. Mm-hmm. Well, I did all that crying back then, back in 87, when that announcement went out. And as you know, my grandmother, my grandgranny, was the third biggest influence on me right after Soupy Sales and Carol Burnett. And she had instilled, you keep working no matter what. You have to have a job. So this was, the first time I was facing, what am I going to do?
Right. And you had been in radio for quite a number of years, even before Kids America.
Well, one disaster deserves another. I got into radio because of 3 Mile Island. My friend Larry Lee, who was one of the Soupy kids who used to hang out at Soupy Sales Studio, Larry was a volunteer for the New York Public Interest Research Group of rabble-rousers, anti-nuke group rabble-rousers. And we were very upset about 3 Mile Island. He said, you know what you should do? You should really, volunteer at WBAI, which was is a rabble-rousing radio station in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I started volunteering there, answering phones during 3 Mile Island. And it really was, I walked in and it was, honey, I'm home. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm going to wind up doing here, but I think I'm home. And I felt that way when I came to XP.
You did.
I really did.
You did. I remember the first time I met you, it was day 2, like we said, in 1988. And you came downstairs from the studios, which were on the top floor of the old building, and you were shoeless. You had mixed-matched socks, and your Birkenstocks were somewhere by your desk area. And you stumbled down, and I thought to myself, okay, this is an old soul, and I thought this will be interesting. And then by the end of the first week, I think we just were like, okay, we both are on the same page. Like, we get what we're trying to do here. And the reality was WXBN had a staff of like 4. Yeah. So everybody kind of left us alone and said, well, you got this hour. We're going to busy try to figure out everything else.
And I have to give credit where credit is due, not just to my grandmother, mm-hmm. but the then general manager of WXPN, Mark First. He had come to WNYC and he observed Kids America. And
and he was the decision maker to bring Philadelphia as an affiliate.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was. And basically, I really think it was like just a couple of days after the announcement had gone out over the air that Kids America was ending, I got a call from him, and he said, "Well, he said this. These are not my words. These are Mark First's words." Okay. And he said, well, basically, you're the show. So you want to come down to Philly and try to do a kid show by yourself? And I channeled my grandmother and my basic fear of unemployment. And I said, yes. I said, I'll give Philly a year. Sure. I'll give Philly a year. And that was 1980. Eventually, I moved my life down here.
Did you know anybody in Philly?
I knew Jane Lashner, mm-hmm. who you all know from the Exponential Festival, yep. because she's our face painter. Yeah. Fabulous Faces with Jane Lashner, but I knew her, and I think I knew somebody from WBAI. Becky Thorne was doing part-time news or something here at right. XPN, but I think that I didn't know anybody in Philly.
But hey, it was one other alternative.
My grandmother's voice was in my head,
exactly,
saying you have to keep a job.
You never thought you'd retire for years.
Never thought.
I remember we had conversations about it, like, I'm staying forever.
Well,
But then I think reality sets in after a while.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it too is, here we go. Okay, we're gonna just touch on the sad story of my life for a moment.
Sure.
In a 6-year period in the 1970s, between 1970 and 1976, my entire family died, and just all other kinds of awfulness was going on.
One at a time, I
One
should
at
say.
a
It wasn't
time,
like they all just disappeared.
And I moved to New York City, and my life, kind of began then, which is why I claim I'm only 50 years old. But I don't know why I retired. But no, I figured I'm not going to live long enough to retire.
Right.
And frankly, here we go back to my grandmother again. Grandma retired because they had demoted her from being the forelady to being back on the sewing machine, and still she wouldn't leave. And she finally retired, and then 2 weeks after that, she stepped over a kitten on stairs, and she was dead 2 weeks after that. So I had this fear. It's like, oh no. Oh no, if I retire, I shall die.
If I retire, I need to stay on one floor.
Yeah, I'll have
never
to
use steps again.
Oh, every animal, and you know how
Yes.
I am about my animals.
I do.
But they learn one thing really fast.
Get out of my way.
Get out of my way. So anyway, so I wound up coming down here, and the second day you showed up, and you had a good story because you said you sounded like I needed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first show, which ironically, I don't know if we even have a copy of it anymore. I know it floats around. I keep hearing about it, but honestly, I don't think that we do. And the first show, Kathy came on the air. The show didn't have a title. It was not, and you remember saying something along the lines of, here I am, we're doing this show. And you had your very NPR voice on. I remember that. It was very, very soothing. And I thought, she seems so mellow and relaxed. And then, of course, I met you, and I realized that was just radio. So I thought what was interesting was that you had no title for the show, and you said, we're not sure what we're going to do with the show, but we could always use some help because we need volunteers to have answer phones. And I thought, I was at a point in my life where I was like looking for something to do, and I thought this is a great opportunity. And I jumped down and volunteered. And because we had a staff of only 4, we wound up having to do everything ourselves, which I think in hindsight was the best possible path for the show because it allowed us to be completely autonomous in so many ways. I mean, granted, yeah, the management was involved and all that, but really they let us make our own decisions. And I remember a decade or so later, the staff of HYY's Fresh Air came to watch us do Kids Corner, and they wanted to see how we do a live show. They wanted, because they don't do everything. Fresh Air is a recorded program, so they came to watch how we do a live show. And I remember they were blown away that it was about 3 or 4 minutes before 7. And I'm chatting with you in the hallway, and we're talking about TV shows and what we're watching, and the stress level is at 0 because we're just like, okay, we got 6:55, and then the mic goes on, and we just do our show. And they were blown away by how casual it was. And I said, that's the magic of this show. It is us. We just do our show.
Somebody said that during the run of Kids America, is that I get paid for being Kathy.
One of the other cool things that is fun to talk about, there was a time, and I want to say this was 1985, that I went to Queen's Day Festival. And I went there because the Ramones were playing, and I was so excited about the Ramones that friends of mine and we all drove up in a car. We went to Queen's Day to the festival. And as we're walking around all these booths, there was this huge inflatable boombox radio all at the end of one row. And I thought, that's weird. What is that about? And I walked up there, and I didn't know much about it, but it turned out there was this radio show. It was on a local station in New York, and I didn't know much about the show. And I think I said hello to people and talked to them and kind of left and went on to see the Ramones. And that was you.
Yeah, that was
you
me.
were at the booth. It was the Kids America booth.
Yes.
At Queen's Day Festival. So I met Kathy in 1985 when I walked up to her at a booth. Of course, it didn't stick at all. And then years later, after the show started, I remember talking about seeing the Ramones in New York. And you're like, I was at that show.
This huge boombox.
But it was huge as in like 15 feet tall. It was not
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah.
It was absolutely humongous.
But I noticed it. I noticed it from across the whole way.
Astronauts could have noticed it. But you saw the Ramones. I just hung out in the van with David Nolan, our engineer for WNYC.
And kept cool.
And stayed cool. Exactly. The air conditioner was on. We could hear the Ramones.
Yeah, that's all you needed to do.
Yeah, and we would watch like the crowds you'll pass by oh yeah,
I
yeah,
know. So yeah, so we were, it was kismet years
just
before we met.
destiny. Yeah.
So anyway, here we are. We're talking about Kids Corner. We're talking about Kathy, and as I said, we put up the Kids Corner treasure chest back in March once you made your announcement of retirement and had people go online to share their memories. We got close to 300 memories, and they were really all across the gamut. Kathy has not seen any of them. I went through and I picked out a whole bunch that I thought would be kind of fun to share. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to hear some of these. I'm going to read these and get your thoughts on some of them, and we'll banter even more. But because you mentioned 3 Mile Island, I think there's a certain song we should play. And who does this song again?
Wretched Refuse String Band under the direction of my friend Citizen Kafka, also known as Richie Schulberg, R.I.P. And the title, It's a Meltdown.
In Harrisburg, in early spring, when boy meets girl, here's what they say. When the core heat is high and you can't see the sky, it's a meltdown. When you walk down the street and you can't stand the heat, it's a meltdown. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, as the cavalry singing a countdown. Birds will fly in the sky as they plummet and die to the scorched ground. When you're losing your hair in the ionized air, it's a meltdown. But it's safe there, you know, 'cause the NRC says that it's so. Folks will clean 1, 2, 3 from the burning debris as it falls down. But it may be too late for us all to escape from a meltdown. When you reach for the light of your body at night, it's a meltdown. When you can't stand the taste of the nuclear waste from above, and no humans dare go down where nothing will grow for a long time. But it may be too late for us all to escape from a
Friends Central School supports XPN. A co-ed Quaker school serving nursery through grade 12, Friends Central strives to awaken courage and intellect by cultivating the intellectual, spiritual, and ethical promise of all students. Since 1845, FCS has helped prepare students to excel and lead lives of meaning. To learn more or schedule a personal tour, it's friendscentral.org. We go further.
The Museum of the American Revolution supports XPN, presenting the Declaration's journey. The museum's exhibit exploring how the ideals of the Declaration of Independence sparked change across generations and around the world. The whole family can experience historic moments and hands-on activities that connect the past to today, right in the heart of Philadelphia's historic district. Open daily, details at amrevmuseum.org.
Kathy O'Connell, throw her out the window.
Wretched Refuse String Band on Kids Corner, a song of historical significance because that's what got me into radio, into WBAI, 3 Mile Island.
What was the term you used? It took
Took one disaster to spawn another disaster.
Exactly. I'm Robert Drake. That's Kathy O'Connell. We are celebrating 4 decades of Kids Corner tonight on our final show. And as I mentioned, hundreds of folks shared their memories of Kids Corner when we opened up the Kids Corner treasure chest earlier this spring. And I went through them and picked out a handful. I shouldn't say a handful, it's probably like 40, but I'm not going to get to them all. And Kathy, as I said, you have not seen or read any of these, so I thought I'd share them with you. The overwhelming thread in all these is, first of all, how wonderful you are, and also how much they love trout fishing in America. Those are the two things that are easily the biggest threads that go through here. A lot of people reminisce over the fact that we played a very pivotal part when they were like just starting families and things like that. We always saw that when we did events. Elizabeth said, I began listening to Kids Corner as an adult in the 1990s. Your radio program would keep me company when I was working late in my office. Your programs were not just for kids. Thank you for such wonderful programs. When you love what you do, it is not work. You have made a life, not merely a living. I thought that was really poignant.
It's true. It is, as you know, and it is not just Fun Drive talk. I go around saying that this is the happiest place on earth, and for me, it is. I absolutely love this community, and I have been part of a few significant communities in my life: WVAI, the Soupy Kids, and now WXPN. And when I say community, there is not a wall between the listeners and us here on this side of the microphone.
We heard from Robbie, who wrote in and said, Kids Corner was an institution in our house growing up, from my older sisters down to me. And I remember calling it with my dad. Years later, I'm a children's librarian. But before that, I worked in concerts, and I had the privilege of meeting and working with you as you emceed Trout Fishing in America at Sellersville Theater years ago. I got to spend time with you in college as well, when my girlfriend got to interview you, and you gave me a top hat that you had lying on your desk that my band still uses as a prop for a song that we sing about a magician. Your legacy ripples in ways you will never know. I don't remember you ever giving away a top hat, but hey.
There is always so much stuff in my life, and I am always trying to palm it off on someone.
I literally have not heard the term palm it off until I met you, and now I hear it all the time. You're always palming things off to people. Here, take this. No backsies. No backsies.
That's the truest law there is. That is the law by which I live my life. No backsies.
Sally said, I really love that you always shared so many stories about your personal experiences and timeless songs from novelty albums and Broadway musicals, sharing these types of music with kids who might never have heard it otherwise. Your love of Broadway, probably there are kids out there who have never heard Broadway musicals until they listen to Kids Corner over the decades.
Well, let's remember too, Kids Corner really came about 1988. That's when The Little Mermaid came out. That's when
it's almost the same time.
Revolution happened in musicals, in musical theater, and all these modern Disney musicals, the Ashman and Menken musicals, and they are all traditionally structured musical comedy. Every year I did a show on this about see The Lion King in a theater. The moment when all these combinations of people and puppets come in through the aisles, it is theater magic. 40 years in radio is based on radio magic, which is its own special kind of magic. And I'm just so glad I was able to bring the two together.
Gabrielle wrote in and said, growing up, we always looked forward to the 7 o'clock hour to listen to Kids Corner. It was the highlight of our weeknights. At the time, we didn't realize you were a local treasure. We thought you were a national celebrity. Now that I'm grown with my own kids, I find myself listening not just for them, but to reminisce. It is so clear how much your heart lights up when you speak with kids. You can truly hear your smile over the radio waves. Thank you for caring for us for nearly 40 years. Congratulations on the next chapter of your life. Very nice, Gabrielle.
That is lovely. Thank
you. Also, we heard from Kate, who wrote in and said, a friend introduced me to Kids Corner in high school in the mid-90s. Her younger brother loved the show. We loved the music as well. I still have mixtapes that I made off the radio. I took to college that featured songs like Fish Heads and Star Trek, and we got to meet Kathy at a singer-songwriter weekend. She graciously gave us her autograph for my friend's brother. He was thrilled. Now, in all fairness, you would give almost anybody your autograph if they asked.
I truly. I walk around with a pen.
And little pictures of yourself. What do you need?
Hi, I'm Kathy O'Connell. Can I sign that for you? Okay, here we go. This is going to bring back some memories to a lot of you who've ever been at a live Kids Corner event. You see this card with my picture on it? You know how much this is worth right now? 0. And you know how much it's going to be worth a year from now? 10 times that much. And the grown-ups get glassy-eyed because it's a long time since they've had to do math.
Right.
But the kids know right away. It's 0 times anything is 0.
Exactly.
And
So-
that's the joke between me and the kids. So there.
So there.
Yeah.
Kate went on and said, I don't think there are many people out there in the entertainment news field who have had that kind of love and respect and really nurturing of kids' hearts and minds. I mean, Kathy is right up there with Mr. Rogers and Captain Noah. Let's talk a little about Captain Noah. You and I met Captain Noah and Mrs. Noah. Wonderful. People.
Lovely.
They were just
lovely
so sweet.
people. And here's the thing. You gotta basically not dislike kids. You don't have to like actively, oh, I love children so much, but you have to not dislike kids. When Kids America was on, I got to travel. And one of the places I got to go to was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because we were on WDUQ out of Duquesne University. And a friend of mine, Arthur Greenwald, who was responsible for our Kids Corner theme.
Mhm.
Thank you always,
Thank you, Arthur.
R.I.P. And he took us to meet Mr. Rogers at his studio. And we got there and we're waiting. It's a whole bunch of us from Kids America. And it's like, it's getting on to 45 minutes, almost an hour already. And you've known me long enough to know I had to go to the bathroom. So I'm, walking down looking for the bathroom, and I passed a room, and the door was open in this room, and there was a child in a wheelchair with 2 grown-ups, and next to him, down on his knees, holding on to the arm of the wheelchair and talking directly to that child like there was nobody else on earth, was Fred Rogers. He was where he was supposed to be, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
He was exactly where he was supposed to be. And he was so real. That just always stuck with me. And that's for me, that was part of Soupy's magic, is that I felt, whether I was watching him on TV, I felt right from the get-go that he was talking directly to me, a kid, a then 12-year-old kid. And also, when I started going into New York to see his show regularly, the same thing. He would look you, in the eye and talk to you like you were a person. And you didn't get that a whole lot,
Mhm.
Back then or even now. And it was a really terrific thing.
People always ask the magic of Kids Corner. Yeah, what makes the Kids Corner Kids Corner? And it's literally you being you. And the reason you are who you are is a lot because of Soupy Sales.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Soupy Sales, Carol Burnett, and my grandmother are the 3 biggest influences on my life. And I'm very happy for how everything turned out because of them.
Another letter that we got through our Kids Corner treasure chest that was open earlier this year, where people are submitting their memories of Kids Corner, was from Faye, who wrote in and said, for a dozen years or so, I enjoyed listening to your evenings on Kids Corner on my drive home from Community College of Philadelphia. My kids got home on their own and later have left home, so the enjoyment was all mine. What I love best about you and your enthusiasm for the musical Fiorello. Fiorello on Broadway, 1959 to 1961, changed my life. In the original cast, my high school English teacher in New York, Charles Ashman, my family and I saw him on Broadway right before he retired from acting. He explained to his students that noses continued to grow and his was no longer right for steady ensemble roles. Charles Ashman had us read a novel every 2 weeks and write in whatever form we wanted to write about them. And so there I was, after an English PhD, driving home from teaching, singing along with you, Kathy, politics and poker. Maybe Charles A. sang the one line, Ed Peterson, that's me. But other than this, toward the end of my freshman year at college, Fiorello was put on. I can't sing in tune, so I signed up for props. This cute fellow had a role to saunter in on the stage, but was eventually told just to pretend to sing. During the last performance, he asked me to go out on that same Saturday night. I had a date, but I agreed to go fishing the next morning at 8 a.m., and I did. I'm 80 years old. I'm still married to him. A few years ago, his fellow saunterer turned up and gave us the old college Fiorello program with our names in it. Kathy, as you played the Fiorello cast album often, I sang along. I'm loving you, darling, it's true. Till tomorrow, till tomorrow. Of course, no one was in the car to tell whether or not I was out of tune, till tomorrow. So Faye wishes you all the best. Isn't that wonderful?
You know what that show means
I
to
know, I
me.
know.
Oh my goodness.
And that's a show that nobody knows about
No.
until Kids Corner. I think you reintroduced it to a whole audience of people.
I truly did. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It beat out The Sound of Music for Best Musical in its year. It is the only Pulitzer Prize winning musical about a mayor of New York. Big Tom, my father brought home that album one day, and I fell in love with the album. I saw the play when it played Westbury Music Fair when I was, a little kid.
Mhm.
And then 30 years later, when I was doing Kids America, I think, because we took a train to Westbury, Bill and I, to see. No, so Tom Bosley would make his hair gray when I saw him as a kid at the beginning of Fiorello, because he's supposed to be older
Right.
reading the comics, because that's what LaGuardia did during the newspaper strike, is he read the comics over the radio to the kids. And then when we saw it 30 years later, he blackened his hair up for the places where he played the young Fiorello H. LaGuardia, Laguardia.
Twilight descends, everything ends till tomorrow. Since we must part, here is my heart till tomorrow. Clouds drifting by, echo a sigh. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I'm drifting too, dreaming of you till tomorrow. Drifting by, echo a sigh. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I'm drifting too, dreaming of you till
Rita's Italian Ice supports XPN. This month at Rita's, the newest featured flavor, Mermaid Ice, has washed ashore. Customers can experience Mermaid Ice at their nearest location this summer, as well as a rotating menu of over 50 different flavors throughout the season. Guests have access to all locations and can place an order for Mermaid Ice directly on the app. Rita's Ice, Custard, Happiness. The Old Barracks Museum in Trenton supports XPN and will have their grand reopening on July 4th to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. This reopening will unveil the results of their year-long restoration. Plus, visitors will experience live 18th century music, living history, and a preview of 3 new exhibits that highlight the site's role in the formation of the United States. For more information, it's barracks.org.
So let me set up that song, sung beautifully by Ellen Hanley, who, don't get too attached to her character. She's going to die very shortly after she sings that song. She's one more song and then, well, she dies very
And she's
sadly.
gone.
Yeah, she's gone, but you don't want him to wind up with her. You want him to wind up with Marie, his secretary, and he winds up with her at the end. Spoiler alert for a show you're never going to see in your life.
It's allowed. It's allowed.
Yeah, you know,
From Fiorello.
and the doughboys of World War One are going off to World War One. Among them, Fiorello LaGuardia, who was a congressman who joined the army to fight in World War One, and they sing that this song of longing and saying goodbye.
It is a wonderful song, and I'm really grateful that Fate suggested it, and the perfect way to put that into the mix tonight on our final show. It's the final Kids Corner. I'm Robert Drake, the producer. Kathy O'Connell, of course, is Kathy O'Connell, and we're hanging out this hour just chatting and reminiscing over a job well done after 38 years and 4 decades of Kids Corner. Mark wrote in on our treasure chest and said, I first heard Kathy O'Connell working in the New York City area. I was driving home from working late, scanning the radio for something of interest, and an Alan Sherman song came on. Thinking that it was Dr. Demento, I was pleasantly surprised that it was actually a kids show. I moved from New York region to Philly about the same time as Kathy did in the late 80s. My kids remember that show was something we played during bath time. My son answered trivia questions, got to repeat the answer at the end of the show. He even won almanacs from Kids Corner. Kathy introduced us to trout fishing in America. We saw them in concert at least 3 or 4 times. We also met Kathy at Snyderama in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. I remember those events. Best wishes to Kathy on her retirement. Thank you very much, Mark, for that. And another comment, which I wanted to make sure to share, is from Rachel, who wrote in and said, in the late 90s and the early aughts, I was a Kids Corner power user when I was 7 to 9 years old. I called in so often that Robert knew which Rachel I was as soon as I got on the line. I also called in for the trivia questions enough that I actually got asked to take a break. I do remember that. That's when I won a year-long membership to the Franklin Institute, which my parents bragged about for years to come. Kids Corner was my introduction to public radio, and now I'm on the other side of the mic. I host 2 shows, The Weirdest Thing I Learned This Week for Popular Science Magazine and Science Quickly for Scientific American Magazine. I've also gotten to serve as a guest host for Science Friday on NPR. Kathy created the kind of relationship with her listeners that I inspire to today. I can't imagine my childhood without her voice, and now that I have a kid of my own, I can only hope that he'll get to grow up with the media that does the same thing for him that Kids Corner did for me. Wishing you the best for a happy next chapter. That's from Rachel. I thought that was really great.
That is so nice.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rachel, after July 1st, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands. Like, if you're looking for guests or, you know.
If you're looking for somebody to chat about things.
Yeah.
She's
anything.
Kathy is available is what she's getting at.
Yeah, I don't necessarily even need a microphone.
Exactly. Just call up and chat.
Yeah.
We got well over 200 to 300 emails from folks who were suggesting some memories of Kids Corner. And a couple that had a thread were from Paulie and another one from Roberta individually. Roberta wrote in and said, my favorite memory is driving south from New York to Baltimore in the New Jersey Turnpike and hearing mostly Grateful Dead music the whole way. At first, I figured there must be some concert. Then Kathy came on and said, someone important to your parents has died, Jerry Garcia, so be nice to them tonight. And thanks for being there for so many years. In that same thread, Paulie wrote in and said, I found XPN when my husband and I moved here from Baltimore close to 30 years ago. Kids Corner came on because it was the lineup, and we always had the station on, so I didn't change it. But it happened to be the day Jerry Garcia had passed, and I happened to have the radio on. Kathy was so kind and understanding, explaining to the kids who were listening about who Jerry was and how he was important to so many people. and that they may need to be particularly nice to their parents while adults are remembering this influential musician and the music that he helped create. Kathy played some age-appropriate Dead tunes intermingled with fun, facts, and stories about Jerry. She was so caring for the kids and their possible concern and confusion about their grieving adults in their world. She spoke to the kids honestly, respectfully, and appropriately. I was very impressed and will never forget that moment. I'm not ashamed to say it actually helped me to hear her calming voice during that time. She's a gem. I wish her best in the next chapter.
I am what you would call, Bill O'Neill coined this phrase, an armchair deadhead. I am deadhead adjacent to several people I love very much who are deadheads. And among them, Chrissy Rockwell's parents. And Chrissy came on the air with us that night and spoke beautifully about what the Grateful Dead had meant to her and her family. But I wonder if you remember, there was, I don't even remember the guy's name, because if I don't like you, I either remember your name forever or I put you right out of my mind. And I don't remember his name, but he was on ABC. And they came up to record something with us because they heard that a kid's show was talking about Jerry Garcia. But I don't think they heard the part where it's a live radio show, bozo.
Right.
And I was explaining to them, well, we're live and this is what we do. And he rolled his eyes at me, and you don't roll your eyes at me.
Never roll your eyes at Kathy O'Connell.
And I said to him, I have 2 Peabody Awards for what I do. What do you have?
And shut him up.
It put his name right out of my mind.
You hit the purge button after that.
Well, because there is too often a built-in dismissiveness of, oh, you do kid stuff. Oh, it's kiddie stuff. As though there is something lesser about it. Meanwhile, kind of educating and entertaining kids, preparing the future is kind of the most important job you can do. And also, these are all lovely words about how lucky I am and what I am able to do. But you know who are really doing the work? The parents and the teachers. I'm a wonderful aunt. I sweep into the kids' lives
for 60 minutes.
Yeah, for 60 minutes, and I'm Auntie Mame. And I'll probably do the score from Mame too if you wait too long. And I get to hand the kids back at 8 o'clock.
Right.
But the people who are invested in your lives, in kids' lives, those are the ones who are doing the real work every day.
We talk about how people belittled kids' radio or belittled kids' programming when they would roll their eyes. And another thing that is minor in the scope of things, but here's a perfect opportunity to bring it up. My little pet peeve is when people will write to me and spell Kids Corner with a KK. Like, no, corner spelled with a C. I mean, who taught you to spell Kids Corner with a K? And I'd always hear, well, it's a cute kids show.
No, it's not a cute kids show.
Yeah, it's like, why would we teach kids wrong spelling? It drives me crazy. And to this day, I still get emails from people who write Kids Corner with a K and a K, and it just...
That drives me crazier than people who spell my name with a C.
Yeah, because that at least I can get. But, Kids Corner, it's pretty obvious it's a C.
That's how I feel.
Lucky wrote in and said, thank you for making space for me to discover how much I love performing at such an early age on stage. Kids Corner was my very first ever gig. You let me play a song about birds that I wrote on my tiny Casio keyboard. Now I'm an artist who performs all the time. Thanks for bringing so much magic into all of our lives and for making us feel seen and heard.
That's so nice. See, okay, I got to jump in here.
Yeah,
because
you can. It is your show.
It's my show. Still, people have commented, and I think even I have waited for what I call the other shoe to fall. That okay, I know. I mean, I've had this job almost 40 years, and I know I'm going to be sad at some point. Robert, there is no point where I'm truly sad. I am just so grateful to have had this experience for this long. Nobody gets this kind of job in radio.
Yep.
And you hear what the job is. You see what the job is. Yeah, this guy thinks he's lucky. I'm the lucky one.
We're all lucky.
We're all lucky.
But it's,
Bella, that was for you.
Jen wrote in and said, I was a teen when Kids Corner came on the WXPN. I still enjoyed hearing it every day as I drove home from my retail job. One year in college, some friends from class invited me to hang out at their house. When I got in their car, XPN was on, and I was thinking, oh, I found my people. It happened to be during Kids Corner, so as soon as the Star Trekking came on, everybody sang along. And I thought, oh, definitely found my people. Let's talk for a hot second about how important it was for you to keep novelty music alive, because I think if it wasn't for programs like Dr. Demento beforehand,
Yes.
but Kids Corner, because Dr. D wasn't on the air much of our tenure, we really kind of kept the novelty music alive for generations of youth.
Weird Al, Tom Lehrer, Spike Jones, so many people. Barnes and Barnes, there was just a piece on CBS Sunday Morning about Billy Newmy, he's Barnes and Barnes,
Right.
The perpetrators of fish heads. And this is the music I was brought up on. My parents, this was their record collection. My father brought home every Alan Sherman record. My mother had Spike Jones 78s. They had phenomenally goofy music collections. And, the statute of limitations has long passed. So I can say when Kids America got canceled, I took a whole...
You rescued them.
I did. They're my rescues.
You rescued all the novelty
I
music.
did.
Eric wrote in and said, hi, Kathy, and congratulations on a wonderful career. My daughters are now 38 and 35. One is a nurse, the other is a social worker. My wife and I raised them listening to Kids Corner, and we thank you for that. A funny moment happened with us and you. We were at a diner in Cherry Hill, Route 38, near the Cherry Hill Mall, and we sat at a booth right behind you, kids and her. You were dining with Keith and Ezra, Trout Fishing America, which, if you knew the three of them, that makes sense. We had never seen you. We only heard your voice, so we didn't recognize you, but my daughters recognized your voice over the booth. So great. When you got up to leave, we interrupted to say hi, and you were very gracious. You even snitched a French fry from my daughter's plate almost 30 years ago, and we never forgot that moment.
No, I believe it was Ezra.
I'm sure it was Ezra.
Yeah,
Don't trust him in food.
For real. For realskies.
I want to share a couple more quickly, and then we'll get to a song, and then we'll get to some more chats. But I started listening to Kids Corner around 1990 when I was 5 or 6 years old. I loved calling it for research questions. That instilled a lifelong love for trivia. I would study my almanac until the pages were falling out. And to this day, my wife and I are huge Jeopardy fans because of you. I got to be on the air a few times, even though I was incredibly bashful. I remember vividly for a few seconds of dead air when you asked me what my favorite movie was. I frantically searched my memory only to rattle off the most recent, albeit terrible movie I had seen, which was something called Stay Tuned. My favorite, although kind of sad memory, was when I was 11. In the summer of 95, my parents split up and we moved up to New Hampshire. Earlier that summer, I had sent in a list of research questions to be used, and you or Robert must have reached out to my old phone number. My dad got a call forwarded up to me in New Hampshire. I was able to give the research question on the air from New Hampshire, and I was having a really rough time with the move and my parents. And I'll never forget how excited I was to be able to ask the research question one more time, but also completely overwhelmed with how sad I was for the exact same reason. What that 11-year-old Nick would have done for online radio back then was amazing, because all I listened to was Kids Corner and Y100. But it was some sort of inflection point in my life that I will never forget to this day. Fast forward 30 years, I have 2 little boys, and for the past 5 years, we've religiously listened to Kids Corner and Kids Corner Stream. I'm so incredibly grateful that they too will remember you in the show. We dance to the theme song every night, and the classic Kids Corner songs are in heavy rotation in our household. Enjoy your retirement. Thank you for the wonderful memories and shaping the curious engineer and father that I am today. We could use more souls like you. I love the fact that there are moments that, for, like you said, it is a job. What you and I do is a job.
Yeah.
We sometimes forget the fact that how we're creating these little moments that people will remember for decades. And this today just shows you there are hundreds of people who have specific memories that are 20, 30, almost 40 years old, that to us, that was just a Thursday at work at the time. And we're excited to know and humbled to know that these things were that important.
You never know what you are putting out, and you never know what you are channeling. Things move through us sometimes, and we are a vessel for something greater than ourselves, and you just got to go with it.
Outside of our incredible guests and our incredible regulars that we've had, it's just been you and me.
Yeah.
Just the two of us putting this together. I think that really has helped make it what it has been.
And by the way, and y'all wonder why I keep watching Survivor. It's because everything in life is Survivor, and we have had an alliance that has lasted right to the end.
Yep. And I've also said to somebody recently, we were talking about the humbleness of this moment, and I said, it's rare to, first of all, it's rare to work in radio at one station for as long as Kathy and I have worked at. That's already
Yes.
rare. Secondly, it's also rare to be able to be given the keys to create something unique on radio, to nurture it for 4 decades, and then technically to plan its funeral on your own terms.
Yes.
That is unheard of in this day and age, to have that freedom.
I am going to be back, as we know,
Sure.
because how can you miss me if I won't go away?
Right.
And I'll probably be back for fun drives. And I'm telling you right now, everything I say on the fun drive, I mean from my heart, because I truly do love this place
Mhm.
and what we have all created together, this community. And I just want to just express how grateful I am that WXPN exists, that public radio exists, public broadcasting. And, when times are rough and times are challenging, you find your community. And whether it's your public radio community, your deadhead community, whatever it is, you find your people. And we have all been incredibly lucky here at WXPN to find each other and to continue finding each other.
I want to share one more memory that we got from our treasure chest. This comes from Mary, who wrote in and said, Kids Corner is truly heartwarming. When it came on, it was like snuggling up on the couch, wrapped in a warm, comfy blanket full of hope and wonderment for the kid and all of us. Forevermore, we will be wrapped in decades of the Kids Corner warm, comfy blanket of memories. Thank you for encouraging generations of children and adult listeners. You are an inspiration to us all and an icon for the station. Wishing much happiness for a long and fun-filling retirement gig. May you Star Trek across the universe for many years to come. Like I said, hundreds of memories we received, and we're so grateful for all of them. And I want to take a minute to recapture ourselves, and then the floor is yours. So let's
Okay.
hear our music, and we'll be right back with more of Kids Corner here at XPN.
See your tears when I show my face. I'm my friend. I never knew till then. My friend, I feel your love when you're not near. It helps me make it, knowing you care. The thought of you helps me carry on when I feel all hope is gone. I see the world with brand new eyes. Your love has made me realize that in love looks bright to me. Oh, because you are.
It's Kids Corner. I'm Kids Corner producer Robert Drake. We are celebrating 4 decades of Kids Corner tonight as we wrap things up here. Kathy O'Connell and I have been hanging out this hour, sharing memories and stories over the past almost 40 years of hanging out here on the radio with you. And I'm going to give you the floor, Kathy O'Connell. We're down to the final minute. So what do you got to say?
I am going to say thank you to very specific people. And a couple of them I lucked out because their names begin with the same letters. You, Robert Drake, and Roger LeMay. I have loved working at WXPN, and I have enjoyed the people I have worked with, and I have learned from and been inspired by the people I have worked with over the years. But I want to specifically mention, Robert, the day you showed up was the best day in my life. There is no way Kids Corner would still be on the air if I had to both figure out the behind the scenes stuff and say funny things on the microphone. You know, I want to thank you for showing up and for constantly showing up. And, you know, we're not shy about this. You are my best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm your best friend.
We're not going anywhere in our world.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, I have worked for a bunch of years now for the greatest boss I am ever likely to have in my life. I have worked for someone who was a very good wizard and a very not good man. I worked for someone who is a very good man and kind of as a wizard. And then I worked for Roger LeMay, who is both a very good wizard and a very good man. And I have loved working at this radio station for as long as I have because of the people who work here. And I made a joke for a long time about how they finally got a crowbar big enough to get me out of here. Well, the fact is, once you start working at WXPN, it is hard to leave because it is the happiest, most creative place on earth. So please keep supporting WXPN. I'm leaving, but you know, I'm not really leaving. You know, this is still my home base. It's, you know that. I want to thank everybody who has been part of this journey for me, this very long journey with me over the years. All the people both on the air and off the air, all the phone answerers, all the musicians, all just the listeners. This is truly an area where we can honestly say we want to thank the little people for getting us here. Finally, I want to say tonight's edition of Kids Corner was engineered and produced by Robert Drake. I'm Kathy O'Connell. Have a good night. Have a safe night. Please, let's try to all be kind to each other. No backseat.
The V, and that's all, folks.